I grew up in a large family, and my parents were divorced, and I was the youngest of 7, and pretty much grew up alone. Mom was busy with their own struggles, and our brothers didn't really like me hanging around, so I just kind of had to figure things out on my own. Mom always said that God was good, and so I had a lot of silent and outwardly conversations with God, walking along the riverbanks and things. So I always, for a lot of years, just went on a blind faith, pretty much like the faith of a child. As I went into adulthood, I pretty much carried that along. And then I got married. When the marriage started to kind of go separate ways, I made a covenant with God. And this was in 2003, that if I left the marriage, that I was going to cling on to Him, and I was going to pursue the relationship with God that I was desiring at that time. And so I did. I then did a Bible study at home that was called Experiencing Jesus. It was really then that I began to understand who Jesus was, what salvation was about, and so at that point I gave my life to Jesus. The last 3 years of my life has been very challenging. I've had loss after loss after loss. I was becoming pretty confused as to what in the world does this mean. I did go into hibernation. I did not leave my house much at all. Truly went into a severe depression. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that I wasn't feeling so good. And then come August, I started to experience irretractable crying. I would cry at the drop of a hat. You looked at me, I would cry. I just couldn't speak without crying, literally. And my mom had passed away, and so I figured that a lot of the depression coming back, the crying, was all related to Mom. I developed some back pain and some hip pain, and thought it was just stress. I went to my physical therapist and wasn't getting any better, and I thought, this don't feel right. I think it's something else is going on. So I went to my primary doctor. I had an ultrasound. The ultrasound tech was appalled at what she was seeing on my exam, and she was not supposed to tell me anything, but she was like, oh my God, this is not good. And I'm like, okay. Brought myself a total hysterectomy. I'm that age, no problem. Gonna be straightforward. Wrong. I was able to get into an OB/GYN, and within 5 days, 4 days after that, I had a surgery consult, and then 4 weeks later, I was had surgery. So this kind of all started in September, and I had my surgery on December 4th, and they did a total abdominal hysterectomy for an 80% chance that it was cancer. Hour-and-a-half surgery lasted 3 hours because they found a lot of cancer and a huge tumor. 8 days after surgery, I got a oncology consult. And that's when the oncologist told me, we're gonna do a CAT scan, see if it's spread anywhere. If it hasn't, everything's good, we'll just monitor you. So we did the CAT scan, and we ended up finding multiple nodules in my lungs. So it was like, well, okay. Went in to see the chemo doctor, and that doctor took all my hope away. She was just like, there's no cure, and all we can do is slow the progression down and make you comfortable. And it's my experience that people survive about 2 years. That was pretty shocking. I didn't really know how to process all of that. I'm surrounded by people that give me love and support and really keeps me focused on God and how God's moving in my life. But at the same time, I have a medical community around me that is constantly reminding me that this is going to kill me. The battle between hope and hopelessness really keeps me focused on God and keeps my conversation geared to Him. I'm at a place where I've reached acceptance of, okay, I am sick, even though by God's grace I don't feel sick. My symptoms are a lot more mild than what they were before surgery. And I've also surrendered to God, and it's like, okay, God, you know I'm ready to leave this world. But I'm also surrendering again to you that if you are using me for a greater purpose, then I surrender that to you. Because my first surrendering was to say, okay, God, I accept Jesus as my Lord and my Savior, over my whole life, and I surrendered that to Him. So now I'm surrendering this medical issue to Him, and I don't know what it's gonna hold, but I do know that God's in this, God's guiding me, and He's providing me. And so every day I'm just like, okay, let's make this the best that I can make it. And I constantly focus on being of service to God, being His hands and feet.